It's such an interesting choice to have you doing this after maybe having seen some of the old movies. What was it like to be this outrageous, this wild, this crazy?
Oh, it was wonderful fun. Because I no longer had, it was not a life or death experience for me working in front of a camera. And I just thought the character was just so outrageous. I didn't really believe her. And so first I worked on it as a comedy, because that's what I thought it was. And I worked out at some physical business that I thought would be funny. And when I got to the rehearsal period in Brian's living room, and I was doing a scene with Sissy, and I did it twice, I thought it was pretty funny. And Brian said, "Wait a minute, Piper, you can't do it that way. You're going to get a laugh." I thought, oh my God, he doesn't mean for it to be funny. So
you thought it was supposed to be funny?
Yeah. So I decided to, okay. We never talked about it, but what it did is drove me deeper into who this woman was really, really on the inside, and made that more powerful, stronger. Did almost the same thing with the same dialogue.
An incredible lunatic, that woman, huh? Especially that scene with the carrots. Even that, it's a small scene, but it just really shows who she is.
Well, I saw a screening of Carrie not so long ago, one of those audience participation things. It's become a sort of cult thing.
Absolutely.
And there was the master of ceremony was commenting throughout the movie, in addition to the audience saying the lines together with me. And for that moment when that overhead shot of me chopping on the carrots, the MC said, Margaret finds relaxation in cutting carrots.
That's great. Wow, that's amazing. Well, that's a funny thing, yeah. Wow. That's really, and that last scene is probably the most incredible death scene in movie history. How was that done with all of those knives that were like put into your, what happened there?
Technically, it was simple. They had a steel vest on me and underneath the gown with tiny little metal things holding wire. The wire came through the fabric and stretched out 15 feet to where the prop man was. And one by one, he would attach a can opener or whatever, and it would slowly bobble its way on the wire about like this until it would finally hit me, and then I would react. And they speeded up the film. And for each of the things that hit me, that it would just bum, 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 which was hilarious, and I tried to not lose it so that I could react properly when it actually hit me. Mm-hmm. But when they cut and I had a chance, I was just howling with laughter. It was
the whole performance of Margaret White is actually, you give it a lot of sexuality during the whole thing. Actually, there's like a woman who's never really had the sexual release, and it seems like this is what actually she's getting at the end, kind of.
I'll say.
Definitely. And that actually gave you a reputation as a cult, as a horror queen, and that was and I think that actually that gave you that landed you that role in Ruby, where you played the lead star in that.
No one had seen the movie yet. When I did Ruby, they hadn't even put the movie Carrie together.
Really?
Yeah.
It was that fast after.
Yeah.
Wow. Because that's actually a movie that has not gotten the recognition it deserves. Your performance is very intense and very wild.
I think Europeans tend to feel that way. I think a lot of people in this country have not seen it.
You've also played many, many, many mothers in your later career from '76. You played the mother of Judy Garland.
Yes.
in the movie for
Yes.
early life, Rainbow, 1978, and you played the mother of Mae West
Yes.
in 1981, and you also played the mother of the deaf actress Marlee Matlin in Children of a Lesser God from
Yes.
86, and that earned you your third Academy Award nomination. What was that like to do that movie and actually have to learn sign language, because you used that in the film?
Yes, it was exciting to learn to sign, and I got my teacher would come every day and I'd work on it, and I got quite good at it, and then realized that my character is not supposed to be good. She resents the whole issue of the deafness and doesn't want to. She has not worked at signing, so I stopped taking my lessons and tried to wipe what I could out of my brain, so that it was hesitating and I had to really think hard for the things.
What was it like working with Marlee Matlin?
Exciting to work with. She had a lot of energy, and she was very focused on the work. It was nice, very nice.
You also played the mother of the late Patrick Swayze in Tiger Warsaw.
My goodness.
In 1988.
Yes.
And that's also a film that a lot of people should see if they haven't seen it. It's a very wonderful and very strong role, and you also played the mother of Matt Damon in Rising Sun in 1990. What was it like? Any memories from working with both Patrick Swayze and Matt Damon?
Yes, Patrick was very serious about the work. There was one scene, the reunion scene he's escaped, I think, I don't remember the plot, but I think he's escaped from jail or something. I hadn't seen it for a long, long time.
Yeah, he did something to the family and had a big fallout with the father, and then he was away for 16 years.
Yes.
And then he sneaks back.
Yes.
And you're the only one, the mother is the only one who welcomes him back
Yes.
when everybody else doesn't want to see him.
Yes. He didn't want to rehearse our scene, her coming together. And that was fine. I remember the director told me before we did it that I should kiss Patrick on the mouth, which I thought was an interesting piece of direction. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's a very, very strong emotional scene, and you never rehearsed that one.
No.
So it is very spontaneous and very deep.
Yes.
That's why it's actually so, it's
Yes.
very intense. And it's a very great scene, actually, and it's a very great movie. What about Matt Damon in Rising Sun? You did that with him and
Yes.
and
Brian
Dennehy.
Yes. Matt was just a shining star with that blazing smile and so intelligent. And he was very respectful of anyone who worked hard I liked him. As a person, he had a lot of maturity.
You were talking just now about having to kiss Patrick Swayze, but there was one actor whom you gave his first on-screen kiss. One of your most amazing performances in 1979 with Mel Gibson in Tim.
Oh, I thought you were saying it's the first time he'd been kissed.
No, probably not, but his first on-screen kiss was with you, huh?
Yes. Yes.
What was it like working on this film? This is one of your best performances ever. Really, very strong.
I was crazy about Mel Gibson. He was just delicious to look at. Just dear and charming and sweet and serious about the work. A little bewildered because he'd never made a movie before. His other movies were released, the Mad Maxes were released afterwards.
That's true.
And this was a soft movie, and it was hard to find an audience in the States, so they waited until he was sort of a star before they released it.
Really?
Yeah.
It had a controversial theme with this more mature woman and the younger man. A very interesting, a very deep emotional character you're playing as well. It really deserves a lot of attention now, and I think, of course, it got that after Mel became a big star after that.
I love it when people come up to me and say, not many, but they do, they say that they've seen it or seen it on television. And how much they liked it.
It's one of his best performances, and it's also
he was terrific.
Yeah, and because it's very different from what he went on to do. What was it like playing something completely different a couple of years later as a Jewish girl playing Magda Goebbels in The Bunker with Anthony Hopkins as Hitler? In '81 you did that. What was that like? That's a historic figure, obviously, who kills her children.
It was... I'd done a lot of research, a lot of reading about the Goebbels, and particularly Magda. It's all so vivid in my mind. The people made a point saying Goebbels' hands were so large and they were very expressive, and he'd give speeches and use his hands, and the women were so seduced by that. And Magda was supposed to be a very beautiful woman. She wore, I saw pictures of her with her braided hair.
And you had that too in the film.
And she also was, she seemed like a decent woman who was in love with her husband, but also had a special feeling for Hitler, which was hard to understand. But she would cook things for him sometimes, make him his cereal. They were all very close, and she was one of the few people that Hitler didn't require to have somebody taste the food first. And they were all together in the bunker those last few days before the Allies came. And it was decided they'd kill themselves, and she had to, as gently as possible, put her children to sleep. And she poisoned them. It just with chocolates.
So do you think she was crazy, or was it just something that had to be done because of the situation she was in?
I think it was the situation she was in. But how can I don't think she was crazy. She was inflicted, like everyone else in that country, with madness, like a special kind of madness, lack of reality. And
were you affected at all by the war? You were growing up during those war years. Of course, you lived in Detroit.
No, during those, I left Detroit when I was 5, and I went to live in an asylum. I mean, it was a rest home for children, and I was there for 3 years with my sister. And I didn't see my parents during those 3 years. But every once in a while, some of the children would come back from vacations and talk about what was happening out there. And I knew that there was Hitler and that there were Nazis and they were killing Jews. And I knew I was Jewish, and I said, why are they killing Jews? It was one of the few times I was able to verbalize something because I was alarmed. And this little girl said, well, they're doing it because the Jews are so smart. And I thought, well, I'm not smart, but maybe I will be one day.
So you remember that?
Oh, yes,
You remember the war?
And I used to have dreams that there was one of the head nurses at this place, Mrs. Schwartz. She was so mean, really cruel. And I used to have dreams that she was actually Hitler in disguise. And I slew them, both of them, a number of times.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was the reason why you were so good in some of those horror films, huh? You also did a lot of, you did the legendary television series The Thorn Birds.
Yeah.
And you also appeared in other TV shows such as Saint Elsewhere with a young Denzel Washington. And you played George Clooney's mother on ER. And you appeared with Angela Lansbury in Murder, She Wrote.
Yes.